Hey class, how are you? Thank you for being so patient with me over the last few weeks as I've been preparing for my comp exams. They're in 2 weeks from today and I am extremely overwhelmed. At this point I've read over about 100 books and I'm pretty sure I have my stuff down, but man, I could still have a panic attack and fail, so I have no idea. But thank you so much for giving me that space. I think looking back retrospectively, it may not have been a good idea to schedule my exams at the same time I'm, doing full-time work. It probably wasn't healthy. Either way, it's coming up and I'm pretty ready for it. So maybe at the end of the lecture I'll show you my book pile so you can see how much work I've had to do. Today's lecture is about the second half of media literacy, digital media literacies. And today we're going to be focusing on how to articulate things that affect our daily lives. And in this case, we're going to be speaking about the algorithm, which I think is a very important part of digital literacies. We'll be starting a class next fall called Digital Literacies, specifically about this and how we can discern certain ways of speaking on the internet, from memes to algorithms. And I think it's important because being able to articulate digital media is difficult. Hell, it's difficult for me to just articulate words. But it's difficult for us to articulate digital media. And that is because, I'm sure this has happened before, when you are taking this class or you're taking anything that has to do with the digital media subjects, your parents are like, what are you studying? Why are you looking at memes? What are you doing on YouTube? These types of media and this type of field is something that isn't easy for people to comprehend. I've been in this field now for a decade and a half, and to this day, my uncle still thinks I plug in televisions. That's what he thinks I do. I hook up modems and plug in TVs. They're not sure. And that is because some people aren't really literate in the idea of what digital media actually do. And so it's important that we understand that our world is run today by digital media. And by this time in the class, you are pretty well versed in that. You are very knowledgeable in those ideas. But I think it's important for us to understand how we can talk about that. And then I want you to know that our world is defined by algorithms. So what's an algorithm? You hear this word all the time, but you're never really sure what it does or how it works. An algorithm is what defines how your feed works on Facebook, or on Instagram, or on Twitter. Tumblr is pretty much the only site at this point that runs in a linear version, but all the other ones pretty much run by the way the algorithm functions. And an algorithm is a living piece of code. What it is a process. It's something that learns from previous processes and adapts to that, and eventually becomes the process, something you're so used to that you don't notice it any longer. Simply speaking, an algorithm is something like your morning routine. You do the same thing every day. You teach yourself the algorithm, and eventually that morning routine becomes something that you're used to. But remove one piece from your morning routine, like the toothpaste is empty or there's no cereal, and the algorithm gets all screwed up and has to reorganize. But then it allows you to understand that those systems are built into the way that you function every day. When you mix this with the idea of digital media, you start to understand that somebody else created those pathways for you. Think of it the most simple way that you could see where an algorithm exists on a daily basis, and that's Google Maps. If you've ever used a GPS, it's running an algorithm. Now, if 2 of you, or 3 of you, or try this with your friends, if a dozen of you are next to each other and you try to check the same directions on your phone, 1 or 2 of you may get slightly different directions. And you wonder, why did we get different directions when we're all going the same place? And it's because if the computer told all of you to go to the same exact place, it would actually cause traffic. So an algorithm sometimes uses its algorithms to create efficiency, sending people 2 different directions to make sure that traffic doesn't get caused, to avoid traffic. And that's a machine thinking for you, taking your normal activities and making the steps operate. Which means when we use GPS while we're driving, is it really us making the decisions, or is it the GPS system from Google making those decisions? And how do we know? And so these are the things that we have to start understanding, because up until last year, we thought we were pretty immune from algorithms changing the way we affect our normal lives. But then we found out that data was given to a foreign government in Russia, and they were able to purchase personal feeds, people's personal feeds. And what that means is what your data is on Facebook. How do you know who you are on Facebook? Facebook keeps everything you do. It doesn't, even if you type a search and it doesn't complete, or when you're typing text in a Facebook Messenger, or if you are searching, no, I just said searching, if you're typing in one of your interests, Facebook compiles all that into an identity of who you are as a total being. This is psychological data. This is data that is who you are unconsciously that can be used to basically sell you ads. That's what Facebook's main system is that they take your personal data and sell you ads that they think are pertinent to you. But this had to have started somewhere. How did we become so enmeshed in the system that we could be swayed? And I don't mean you particularly, but I mean like as a group of people, we could be swayed by people selling us certain points of view, changing our feeds to fit their opinions, which make us think certain new things. In one time, Facebook changed the feed as an A/B test. A/B tests are when they show two different people two different things and see which one worked better. In an A/B test, they changed the feeds of several thousands people feed to show only negative material to see if it would change the way they acted. And guess what? It did. So Facebook was able to manipulate people's real emotions in real life by changing the way the feed showed them information. At a certain point, you've got to admit that's pretty scary. That's pretty authoritarian coming from a system. But you also have to remember that algorithms are made by the coder. It always has some sort of bias built into the writer of that code. And in this case, in Facebook, it's the bias of Mark Zuckerberg and his coders. But somewhere this began. And it probably began somewhere around 2000, 2005, and 2006. That is because when YouTube came out, it prioritized you. And in 2006, Time made you the person of the year. They put you on the cover, and I'll put that link in the description of this, and you could actually see it in the assignment. The picture was a little mirror on the cover of Time magazine, and it said Person of the Year, you. And in doing so, they basically were proclaiming that you are part of the machine. You are inherent in the way it operates. And it's true. I mean, if you were to take away all of your data, meaning the royal you, the capital Y-O-U, your data away from Twitter, away from Facebook, away from any of these sites, there's nothing there. It is only you who operate those sites. So it's your material being put back to you. So then how did this become a codified experience? How did corporations know that they can manipulate you in any way? Well, I'm going to show you two really quick commercials. And I want you to pay really close attention to them. They came out in 2009 in what I call the U campaigns. And the U campaigns weren't just a small amount of campaigning. They were a bunch of companies, and this is only an example of HTC, but a bunch of companies at the time had prioritized the capital Y-O-U as a product, as a way of selling you to one another. These two commercials are about HTC's phone, but I want you to watch them very carefully. And then we're going to come back and I want you to watch the second one over again. So here is the HTC U campaigns, two different versions of it. Take a look.